Hi guys, this is Tsetso again, and today I have prepared another Phoenix tutorial, and this time instead of liquids we'll be doing some fire and smoke stuff. And to show you exactly what we'll be doing, here is the final video. And as you can see, we'll be creating a flamethrower, and we'll start off by creating the fire that comes out of our source here. I'll show you how to create these thick clouds here, and then we'll add the smoke, and finally quickly render this. So bear with me guys, and let's get started. So I'll start with setting up the scene unit. So I'll go here to the unit setup and make sure that 1 unit equals 1 centimeter, and I'll use centimeters for display units again. Hit OK, and you can see here I have created this box because I want to have a rough idea of how big the flamethrower will be. And I ended up with making this 20 meters long because I searched Google and I found this page here on Japanese flamethrowers that were used in the World War II. And you can see this image here, this breakdown of the flamethrowers at that time. And you can see that at its most, it's almost 25 meters long. And this is why I decided to make my box there at 20 meters. So I can go ahead now and start creating the source for my flamethrower. I'll use particle flow as a source, so I'll just press 6 on the keyboard to open up the particle view window, and I'll drag a standard flow here. And first thing I want to change is I want to be able to see 100% of the particles in the viewport, so I'll change this to 100%. And I'll also hide the description here because I don't really need it and I want to be able to see more. And let's see what we have. So if I script here, let me just make the color to something more visible. Okay, and I'll rotate this 90 degrees. Move this back a bit. Okay, and let's see what we have. Okay, so you can see the particles are created for the first 30 frames here, and I want to change this. Let's see, I will end the emission at frame 130, so I have a longer emission here, and I'll leave the amount for now. The position is okay, I want to emit them from the icon here. I'll change the speed because right now they are traveling too slow, and if I play back you can see that they are too slow, so I'll increase this quite a bit. I'll also add some variation. Okay, let's set it to 15, and I want to add some divergence to make it more of a cone shape, but not too much, just a little. Okay, 1 is enough. Okay, so now we have something faster. I'll turn off the rotation because I don't really need it. I'll change the shape here to spheres because Phoenix understands the shape of the particles as a sphere only. And I'll set it to be the display to geometry so that we can see the particles, the spheres. And I want to kill those particles at some point in time because right now they live forever. And if I scrub the timeline here, you can see that they don't die. So to do that, I will add a delete operator and place it here under the speed. And you can see right now that I don't have any particles, and that's because the delete operator by default is set to kill all particles immediately, and I will change this to by particle age so that now I have some control over this. And the lifespan here is measured in frames, so 60 frames right now is too much, so I'll start decreasing this. And let me just turn the variation to have some better idea. And okay, so I think 15 frames is okay. And now all the particles that are 50 frames old will die immediately, and you can kind of see this here. And I want to add just a little variation, so I'll set this to 2, and now the particles will die anywhere between 15 and 17 frames of age. Okay, so another thing that I want to do is to change the particle size to grow over time, and I'll need a scale operator for that, and I'll place here under the shape, and I want to scale them just a little bit, not too much. And to make them scale continuously, I'll use the relative successive mode. So you can see right now that the younger particles are smaller and older particles gets bigger. So I want to make this something, as I said, not so strong, so I think that will be enough. And I'll also set the the scaling to be synced by the particle age. So if I go ahead here and change the start frame, again my particles, the younger will be smaller and the older bigger. So I can go ahead now and create the simulator. Create menu, Phoenix FD, and pick the Phoenix Simulator button, and I'll create the simulator around the particles here. But you can see right now that I have 36 million cells, which is pretty high resolution for the beginning here. So I'll increase the cell size to be able to simulate faster, and I'll set this to something very high, like 5. And let me make this a little longer so that I have more space. And okay, I make this 50 as well, and I'll center the simulator on the y-axis and pull this somewhere where the origin of the source is. Okay, and I will raise the particles a bit so that they don't lie on the ground, so something like 1 meter off the ground is okay. And I can also quickly go here and make my home grid bigger, because right now it's too small, so I'll set it to be 100 centimeters, and I'll go here and create the source. So under helpers, Phoenix FD and Phoenix source, go ahead and pick the particles here and choose the event that the particles are generated, and this is event 001, which is this one here. And I'll leave the temperature, but I'll turn off the smoke, and later I'll show you how we can achieve the smoke without simulating it here. And I'll set the source to inject the fluid, and I'll use the particle size so that the smaller particles will emit less and the bigger will emit more. Okay, and press the start and see what we get. And while this is simulating, I'll go here and take advantage of the GPU preview of Phoenix. So I'll click the Phoenix GPU preview, select the grid, and okay, so the flames here are rising too high, and one thing I can do is increase the cooling so that the fluids cools down over time. So I'll set this to 0.2, and I think the vorticity here is also too strong, so I'll turn off the times V checkbox and make this something lower. Okay, and you can see it's not as turbulent as before. But one thing that I don't like here is that the flames are burning as more like a campfire situation, and you can see this rising here at the beginning. To get rid of this, I will select the source and check the velocity checkbox here, so that my particles now start creating velocity inside the grid, and actually they will drag the content of the simulator, and the fire will basically start following them. So let's see if I press the start button again. Okay, you can see now that the flames does not rise at the beginning, and this is something more like a flamethrower now. But I think I'll increase the velocity a bit, so that let's say 1.5, and 1.5 here means that each particle will apply 1.5 times more velocity than its actual velocity. And if I pause here and see the difference, you can see how the flames are going this way. Okay, I'll stop this simulation and I'll get back to the source, and I want to animate the discharge. And the reason I want to animate it is, if we take a look at the image that I showed you in the beginning, you can see that the first 2 or 3 meters the fuel is discharged as liquid, and there is no burning here. So if we take a look at my results so far, you can see that the burning starts at the beginning. So as I said, I'll go here and animate the discharge. So I'll press the auto key, and at frame 0 I'll set this to 0, and at frame, let's say 2, I'll keep it 0, and at frame 125 I will make this 80. Okay, and I'll make the keys linear and press the start button again. So you can see at the beginning no burning, and later on it starts burning. Another thing I want to do is, as I said here, I'm not simulating the smoke, so I'll also turn it off from the output here, and instead I will add a fuel. And what the fuel will give me is that nice clouds here. You can see this one and this one here. Another thing it will give me is the smoke. So basically I will emit smoke from the fuel. And to show you, if I select the simulator here, and if I check the content window, you can see right now that I have temperature and smoke channels. If I go under here and uncheck the velocity, I've also unchecked the smoke, and under the output window I have also unchecked the smoke. So if I press the start button now, you can see that right now I have only temperature simulating, and that's what to be expected. But if I go here now and enable the fuel, and in the simulator I need to go to the fuel tab and press the enable burning, so that the fuel starts burning, you can see that in the content I'll start to see the smoke channel again. So if I press the start, you can see now I have fuel and I also have smoke. So this smoke is generated from the fuel. And the reason that I'm not seeing it here in the preview is that I don't have any lights in the scene. So I'll create just a simple Omni light here and I'll add it to the simulator. So going to the preview, under lighting, click the none button and select the light. And you can see now that the smoke is visible. And I'll press the start button again to see the effect with the fuel. Okay, one thing I can do is I can decrease the size of my particles a bit. So I basically don't want to go under the size of the of one cell. So I'll make this something like let's say 7, and I'll press stop here and let's see what we have. So I have some thicker clouds now, but you can see that it's again too even. So I will go ahead here and animate the fuel, and I'll press the Alt key and start animating the fuel. So at frame 0 I'll set the fuel to 0 as well, and I'll keep it 0 to about frame 5, and then at frame, let's say 20, I'll start increasing it. And one thing that I want to explain here is that when you have a fuel of, let's say in this case 0.7, it means that you have a fuel of 0.7 and the difference up until 1 is covered by oxygen. So if you have, let's say, a fuel amount of 0.2, it means that I have fuel amount of 0.2 and oxygen amount of 0.8. And when you have the fuel set to 1, it means that you only have fuel. So I'll set this back to 0.7, and let's say at frame 35 I will increase it a bit. And another thing with this fuel and oxygen relationship that you have to keep in mind is that by when you decrease the fuel amount here and you basically end up having more oxygen, it means that the fuel will burn faster. So the more the oxygen is, the faster the fuel will burn. So keep in mind this when you are creating fuel. And at frame 70 I'll just zero this out and I'll press the start button and see what we get. Okay, and the sim is done, and you can see it only took 1 minute 46 seconds, so decreasing the resolution really helps us with the simulation times. And I want to preview the result, but instead of going here and scrubbing the timeline, I'll open up the cache folder, and you can see that I have these PNG files here. And what basically Phoenix does is when you enable the GPU preview option, it captures a screenshot of this window on every frame when you're simulating. So I can go ahead now and preview my simulation, and you can see we're starting to get to the final result. I have this nice thick cloud here. I also have a few smaller ones, but I will animate the source now because it's too static, and I will also increase the particle count because you can see it's getting tear apart here. So Okay, so let's get started with animating the source, and I'll just select it. Let me just freeze these two guys here so that I don't select them accidentally again. So I'll freeze this selection. Okay, select my particle flow, and I'll just rotate it. So I'll press the auto key, and in frame 0 I will point it downwards. Then at frame 20 I'll make it go a little higher, and at frame 50 I'll make it go down again. At frame 100 I want to have it pointing straight. Okay, and at the end of frame 160 I will make it go down like this. Okay, and if I preview this, you can see now that we have some movement in the source. And right now you can see that when the source is emitting, the particles are going through the ground here, and I don't really want this, so I'll add a deflector, and I'll create it here and add it to my particle flow. So I'll add a collision test, and I will select the deflector. Okay, so let's see what we have. The particles hit the deflector, but they are jumping off too much right now, so I'll decrease the bounce of this to something like 0.1, and I will also add some variation. Okay, and friction as well. Okay, and I'll set the collision test here to collide it multiple times, and when it collides more than 5 times I will make the particles stop. They will never reach that collision, but this is not a problem. Okay, and let's press the start button again and see the result. And this sim is done. Again, it took only 1 minute 46 seconds, and if you take a look at the preview, you can see we're starting to get closer to the final result. I did, however, forgot to change the particle count, so I'll increase it now, and I will also make the fuel expand more and produce more heat, and I'll change the color of the fire and also the density of the smoke, because right now we have too much smoke here. So let me close this and open up the particle view by pressing the 6 on the keyboard, and I'll increase the amount here. Okay, so close this, and I'll go here to the fuel tab, and you can see that I have the energy, ignition and propagation parameters. So the energy will produce more heat when increased, so I'll increase this to 20, and the ignition is the temperature at which the fuel ignites, and the propagation is responsible for the volume growth. So if I increase this again to 20, my fuel will expand more. Okay, so now I can go to the color and transparency, pick a frame where I have both color and smoke, and you can see that this window here we have fire, smoke, color and smoke density. So we can basically tweak the look of the fire and smoke here. So I'm going to change the smoke density to be based on the temperature, and we get this nice little curve here. So this curve basically represents our temperature, and these 2 points here correspond to the high and the low temperature. So if we take a look at this point here, you can see it has a value of 300, which means 300 degrees in Kelvin, which is somewhere at about 27 degrees in Celsius. So this is basically a normal environment temperature, and with this curve here we are telling Phoenix to show us smoke inside of these temperatures here. So if I decrease the temperature and push it closer to the 0, you can see that I'll start to see more and more smoke, and eventually my container will be filled with smoke. And you can see how much smoke I have now. And if I say, okay, show me the smoke only to the highest temperatures, to the higher, and I start pushing this closer to the 2000 degree value, you can see that I see less and less smoke. So in my case, I want to see smoke only at the hotter parts where the temperature is somewhere at around 570 degrees. And I will just pull this up a bit, set this to 0. Okay, and the next thing is I'll go to the fire, and here I have this gradient and this curve. So the curve here basically represents the intensity of the light that is being emitted from the fire, and the gradient specifies the color of that emitted light. So if I take this point, and which is responsible for the intensity, and I start pulling it down, you can see that in the preview my fire is not so intense right now, and I can start tweaking this until I have something better, hopefully. And okay, so this is okay, and I want to also make the color of that light here not so saturated, so I'll select this little triangle here, and I'll decrease the saturation a bit, and I can also darken it, or okay, make it ever so slightly, and you can see now I have this not so saturated color. And okay, so at this point I can increase the resolution by decreasing the cell size, and something like 6 million will be enough. And I will also decrease the size of the particles a bit, because right now they will be too big for this resolution, so I'll make them slightly bigger than the cell size, so 2.4. And another thing I'll do is I'll make the grid adaptive, and I'll make the adaptiveness based on the speed, so I'll increase just the threshold here to 40. And one thing that bothers me is that I increase the energy of the fuel, and by increasing the energy I will create more heat, which will make the smoke rise faster. And one thing I can do is go here to the source and decrease the temperature, which will basically make the smoke not rise so fast. But because I have set up everything here with my source, I will go to the dynamics, and I will just lower the gravity a bit, and I will also increase the conservation to 20 and the advection to 6. So I'll press start, and I'll see you guys when it's done. Okay, we are almost done, and this is the result from the simulation. And you can see I have these clouds here that the fuel helped me to achieve, and I also you can see that the smoke is not rising very fast. And basically I think it's ready to be rendered now. So to start rendering, I'll just first create the camera. I'm going to the create panel, V-Ray, and V-Ray physical camera. Drag it in the viewport, press Ctrl C to create the camera from the perspective, and I will select this, and I will lock the camera from moving, rotating and scaling. Okay, I'll select the camera and go to its properties and turn off the exposure, the vignetting, and put the white balance to neutral. Okay, and now I can create a light. I'll create a target direct, drag it in the viewport, put this up, and turn on the shadows. V-Ray shadow, I will leave the intensity to 1, and I'll set the directional parameters here to overshoot, and I will also make sure that the atmosphere shadows are turned on. And if I hit render now, okay, everything is too bright because I have two lights now. So I'll just go ahead and delete the Omni that we used for the previewing, and I will add the direct light to the simulator now. So here under lighting, I'll press the none button and select the direct light. Okay, and let's hit render again. Okay, now this is better. And I will also turn off the particle flow from rendering. So press the 6 on the keyboard, and here under the render, set the type to none and hit OK. And I'll go over here to the colors and transparency. Under the fire section, and I will enable the light option. And what light option does is it will enable me to illuminate the smoke using the fire. And what happens really is lights are created inside the fire, and I will place those lights once created inside the grid, and basically a light will be created only in cells that have an emissive component, and I will use only 10% of those lights so that I will be able to render this faster. And I'll check the self-illuminate button to see the result. You can also see the these blue circles here are representing the placing of the lights. So the areas where you see blue, there are lights created. And you can see now my frame is self-illuminated, and you can see the fire illuminates my smoke here. But right now I think the direct light is too strong, so I'll come in here and I will set the intensity to 0.1, and I'll hit render and see how this looks now. Okay, and here is the rendered image. You can see now the fire nicely illuminates the smoke, and I've rendered this without the light option, so you can compare the results. And right now you can go ahead and render this as a sequence. You can also add some ground to cast shadows or to illuminate it with the lights from the fire. What I did is I added this reflective ground here, so that I have these reflections of the fire and smoke. but you can, guys, experiment, see what you like, and I'll be very happy to see what you've come up with. And this is for now, so see you again.